Hi there. Welcome back to the Finley Formation. This is Brandon.
This Gage?
And this is Jared. And continuing on our team countdown, we're on pick number 17 with the Cincinnati Bengals. They were first established in 1967. Their first season was 1968 in the AFL. They have 11 division championships, 3 conference championships. Their first 2 Super Bowls were 81 and 88, which they lost to the San Francisco 49ers in both of them.
Both. Yep.
And most recently in 2021, where they lost to the Los Angeles Rams. They only have 16 playoff appearances, 57 seasons, so not so great.
Not so great
A
at
little
all.
rough.
When I was breaking down their team history, I was just kind of the expectation. It might have been a little bit more than I expected, but I mean, a lot of their playoff appearances seem to come in like the 70s and 80s, so which makes sense.
Andy Dalton took him to a couple.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then recently they've been to a couple more, but
Yep.
it's been pretty bleak in the 2000s. They've only been to, or they only won the division 05, 09, 13, 15, 21, and 22. So that's your division championships in the 2000s. So not so great for them.
25 years. It's been, 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think, look back at their offense, and I love their history on offense.
It
When
is,
I was a kid with Andy Dalton and A.J. Green.
Yeah.
Oh, man, such a
Ocho-
nasty duo.
Ocho Cinco.
Ocho
was there,
Cinco. Yeah.
Yep. Retired numbers. They only have one retired number 54, Bob Johnson. He was a center from 1968 to 79. They only have 2 Hall of Famers in the National Football Hall of Fame. Number 78, Anthony Munoz. He was a tackle from 82 to 92.
One of the best to ever do it.
Yeah. And then 13, Ken Riley, cornerback, 69 to 83.
Also, I think that in the conversation for best to ever do it
Yeah.
for corners.
You know, which
probably
was
put him
surprising
top
when I
No
looked
Boomer?
at Anthony Munoz. I was like, oh, wow. But in their Ring of Honor, the Bengals Ring of Honor, they have 10 people. Anthony Munoz, Paul Brown, who was the original founder, owner, and head coach in 1968 to 75. Ken Anderson, quarterback, 71 to 86. Ken Riley. Willie Anderson, tackle, 96 to 07. Isaac Curtis, wide receiver, 73 to 84. Boomer Esiason, quarterback, 84 to 92, and then again in 97. Chad Ocho Cinco Johnson, wide receiver, 01 to 2010. Corey Dillon, running back, 97 to 03.
Corey Dillon.
And then
Total stud.
Tim Crummy, nose tackle, 83 to 94. All-time statistical leaders, which was kind of surprising for passing. Ken Anderson, he played in 192 games. He's the all-time leading passer for 32,838 yards.
I thought Boomer Esiason all day.
Oh,
So
really?
Yeah.
I thought Andy Dalton,
So-
bro. Throwing it up to A.J. Green
Yeah.
every other play.
Boomer Esiason was number 3 on everything, passing yards and passing touchdowns. Andy Dalton is the all-time leading passing touchdown thrower.
Throwing it up to A.J. Green
Yep.
back the end. So, man.
204 passing touchdowns. And he played in 60 less games than Ken Anderson. So I think he was right behind him. He had like 3,000 less yards.
Oh, really?
So he was number 2.
Dude,
Rushing.
people forget how good Andy Dalton was
I know.
back in the Bengals, man.
He was.
I loved him in Bengals.
For about 5-6 years, it
Yeah.
seemed like. Pretty solid.
Yeah, that's more than what I thought he would have
Yeah.
had.
I loved him with the Bengals.
Yep. But Andy Dalton was there from 2011 to 2019. I think is he still in the league? He's a backup somewhere. He's got to be.
Last
still-
time I remember him was Cowboys
He might still
before Cooper Rush.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure. Going back, all-time leading rusher Corey Dillon played in 107 games, 8,061 yards, and their all-time rushing touchdown leader is Pete Johnson. He had 64. He played from 77 to 83. Receiving, Chad Johnson, 2001 to 2010, 151 games. He had 10,783 yards, and he leads touchdowns too with 66. Defense, you got Tim Crummy as tackles, just over 1,000 solo tackles, which seems
Wow.
like it's quite a bit,
yeah,
actually.
I mean, if you look at seasons,
right.
like Fred Warner's
Yeah.
114 a season or something.
Right. So he's averaging over 100 solo tackles probably for a good 10 seasons straight, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Eddie Edwards was all-time sacks leader. He has 84.5, and then Ken Riley was the all-time INTs with 65. Other notable players: Carson Palmer, John Kitna as quarterbacks, and then you have
John
Cedric
Kitna.
Benton, Archie Griffin, Joe Mixon as running backs, AJ Green, Carl Pickens, Chris Collinsworth, who's probably a better announcer.
Announcer,
than Maybe
He
I
was
don't
a
know.
wide receiver, right?
He was, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
He might be a better receiver.
Dude, I really liked him when he was on the Inside the NFL.
Yeah.
Really liked him
But once he
before
started
Patrick
calling
Mahomes came in.
games,
Yeah.
it's like, come on, man. Yeah,
He's-
and before Patrick.
Before
Mahomes,
Patrick
yeah.
Mahomes, I liked
He's
him.
kind
and
of.
then
It seems like you have to have your own taste for Chris Collinsworth
Right.
announcing games. He's a little dry.
you
but
have to be a fan of Patrick Mahomes
Yeah.
to like Chris Collinsworth.
He
That's
just gets so stuck on a guy,
He does. Yep.
and it's like, God, dude, get out
Yep.
of his jock strap.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he's never evolved with the game, so he's still kind of announcing like still the 1970s or 80s. Like,
Yeah.
dude,
yeah.
kind of get with the times, buddy.
Right.
TJ Husmanzada was another receiver,
Oh,
big
yeah.
name. He played with Chad Johnson there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
This name kind of popped up. I almost forgot about him, but he was one of the biggest like surprises that he never like took off in the NFL. But Peter Warrick, he was a stud coming out of Florida State receiver. And then everybody was just like, man, he's going to take the wide receiver position to the next level, and he just never panned out.
What year
So-
was he drafted?
It
Like
was
93
yeah,
or
late,
something like that.
I was
Oh.
going to
it
say
late
late
90s?
90s. Like
Yeah, I was gonna say
97.
I've never heard of him, but that makes
Yeah.
sense if it was that long ago.
But
Yeah.
he was like one of the. I just remember his name quite a bit because people always mention him. Like, oh, the game was never geared towards him. Like, if he was like around now, where it's a kind of a passing league, he would have evolved. But he's kind of like a Reggie Bush, where his game was so dynamic in college, but it never took off in the NFL. Vontez Burfict, linebacker. Leon Hall, cornerback.
Love that guy.
Jermaine,
AJ Brown really hates that guy, but I love that guy because I like
I
AJ
love-
Brown now. He says
I
some
love, yep.
funny stuff.
Jermaine Pratt, he's actually still on the team. Carlos Dunlap, Ray Malayuga, which he came. I really liked him because he came from that USC linebacking crew that had Clay Matthews and Brian Cushing.
Mhm.
He was that third linebacker, and he was actually really good too. The Cowboy, Justin Smith, started his career in Cincinnati.
Yep.
And then going into right now, Logan Wilson, the
UW.
governor from
Yeah.
Natrona County, Wyoming.
And not just played at Wyoming either.
Yeah.
He's born and raised. Yep.
Born and raised in Casper, and hell of a
Yes.
linebacker at Wyoming.
Yeah,
I think he started all 4 years,
Mhm.
and then he's
Up
gone
until,
pro. And he's playing really well, and
Yep.
he'd had a good season going until he got injured.
Yep.
Yeah, right up until Isaac Schoenfeld, he was the highest ranked Wyoming prospect ever.
Really?
And then I think Luke Couch managed to be higher ranked than Isaac Schoenfeld, so now he's third in state
Oh,
history.
wow.
And both those guys are in college.
Yeah.
So far, he's the best player out of Wyoming ever.
Yeah.
But we'll have to look into.
And plus, he's just got I think it was last year or 2 years ago, he just got that big contract too. So he's on a second contract with him. He does really well. I don't know how many Pro Bowls he's been to, if he has, or if he hasn't, he probably should be.
Yeah,
He's one of the better linebackers in the league.
if
you
he's
ask me.
healthy, he's going to get you, 120,
Yeah.
130 tackles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And not to mention, he can pick the ball off
He
pretty good.
can.
Yeah.
Notable head coaches started with Paul Brown. He was the original head coach owner. Another Jackie Moon type of person. Head coach, owner, player. I don't think he played, but he was there from 68 to 75. He was 55 and 56 and 1. Marvin Lewis is the big one. He was there from 03 to 18, 133 and 122 and 3. So kind of goes to show you their all-time winningest coach was almost 500,
Right.
which, I mean, it kind of goes, it tracks with their history of not
Mhm.
being that successful.
Yeah.
And then it leads us into right now, Zach Taylor. He's been there since 2019. He is 46 and 52 and 1, so he's got a losing record.
Yeah.
Kind of tracks. Front office wise, their owner president is Mike Brown. The franchise has been in the Brown family. Mike Brown is the son of Paul Brown, so he took over in '91 when Paul Brown passed away. Their executive VP is Katie Blackburn. She's been there since '01. She's kind of famous she kind of came famous in that Hard Knocks when the Bengals was in Hard Knocks. She's kind of
Oh, yep.
she's kind of a hard ass negotiator. I think she kind of said some things lately about Trey Hendrickson, which kind of rubbed him the wrong way about he should be happy with what he's getting paid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
Yeah.
pretty vocal about how it is. But she's been there since '01, and then their director of player personnel. They don't have a GM. They have a de facto GM, which is Duke Tobin. He's been there since '99. He just doesn't have the title. But that kind of leads us into what they are now. They've kind of taken the different approach to what a lot of these teams are taking. Is they've invested heavily in skill possession players and not offensive line.
Yeah.
And you've kind of seen that with recently this not so successful season that they've had. Joe Burrow is either always getting hurt or doesn't have the protection, and they're always playing from behind. And you just,
Or they have the highest paid wide receiver
Yep.
duo, and it's not even the best.
I just remember the big debate when Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell were in the draft, and it was like, well, what are the Cincinnati Bengals gonna do? And ever since they've taken Jamar Chase, you kind of see him go on that path of, hey, we don't care about our O-line. We got a superstar wide receiver. We got a superstar number 2 wide receiver. We got a superstar quarterback, and we're going to make it work. And the proof is in that I let them do a Super Bowl. All of us saw that,
Yeah.
and they almost won a Super Bowl. But
But look at Penei as well.
Yeah.
I really think
Mm-hmm.
that was one where you couldn't go wrong.
Yeah.
I think Penei as well makes just as big of an impact, if not bigger than
Right.
Jamar Chase.
But definitely, yeah, like you said though, it definitely showed what culture they were going
It
for.
is.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
and it changed that culture
Yeah.
of that team.
And you kind of, to me, I thought they had one of the better defensive coordinators in the league with Lou Amarillo. He just kind of had, I don't know. I don't know if it was just cap issues with money they were paying their studs, and not so much on defense, where they kind of let that kind of go by the wayside. But defense has kind of taken a hit to where they went with my guy Al Golden from Notre Dame as their defensive coordinator now, and man, they're in a contract battle with Trey Hendrickson. They're probably their best one of the better defensive players. Logan Wilson's coming back from injury, and it's just like they have holes everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that kind of leads us into where they are now. Is they have probably one of the better maybe offenses in the league, if you want to say Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as a duo. And I really like Chase Brown as a running back. I think he gives them what they need. I just think they're playing from behind so often that he doesn't get a lot of touches probably in the fourth quarter.
I think if they had a demo line,
Yeah.
he'd be a good back.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just you have to be Barry Sanders or even Marshawn Lynch did it with the battle line.
Yep.
You just have to
Right.
be one of those
Yeah.
super dominant backs to have success with this bad of an O-line.
Yep.
Yeah, and they used them a lot in the passing game. They were 9th in team offense, 1st in passing. And that's all awesome. That's great, except for they were 25th in defense.
Mm-hmm.
And even though at times, I guess at the end of the season, you saw their defense starting to come around when they went on that run where I think it was the Broncos who went into Kansas City and just was able to demolish them because they were sitting everybody, which knocked the Bengals out. But they were that close to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but their defense started playing better. But it wasn't, good enough. But it brought them up to 25th.
Yeah.
If that may, that's how bad it was all
Right.
season long.
Yeah.
I mean, they were having to put up a lot of big scores, and they just had to go out and try to just outscore everybody because it was track meet.
It was.
So
Yeah, and then just some of the moves that they've made this offseason, they've doubled down on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins being the duo that they're going to do, and probably not pay offensive linemen. And
They overpaid T. Higgins,
They-
but
yeah,
it's whatever.
it's. I mean, they
They
got
should have traded him to the Niners,
They
but
got a-
it is what it is.
$55 million quarterback. They got a 30. How much is Jamar Chase making a year? 36, 37?
Yeah,
38?
something like that. Yeah.
And then a $30 million number 2 receiver. So,
Yeah, they got almost 70 million tied into wide
Yep.
receivers, and then a lot into quarterback. Half their cap space goes into those 3 guys.
right. I totally agree with getting Jamar Chase locked down.
Mhm.
Totally agree with that. They needed to do that. I don't agree with the Higgins
Yep.
signing for that much. I
Yes.
like that they got him back. I like that they wanted him because it was awesome. But for that much, no, you let him walk.
Right.
I think
You gotta
they
let
could have
him
brought
go.
him in for 22, 23, and even that's high.
If they could have.
Yes,
Yeah.
if they could have brought him in for 22, 23,
Mhm.
I think anything over 25, you let him walk.
But to me, it's just funny because you look at the other teams in the AFC that they compete with. So you're looking at like the Kansas City Chiefs who are like, hey, we're investing in the O line. We are going to surround Patrick Mahomes with a whole bunch of seasoned veteran receivers that nobody else wants. We're going to sign them 1-year deals. We're still going to make the playoffs. We're probably going to make a Super Bowl run, but we're going to protect our star quarterback. Buffalo Bills has taken that kind of mindset where, hey, we're going to get rid of Stephon Diggs. We're going to get rid of our number 1 receiver. We're going to invest on the offensive line. We're going to be a more run-heavy team. We're kind of going to go through the draft with receivers, but we're going to invest in the offensive line. Baltimore Ravens are almost kind of the same way. I mean, they kind of doubled down with their tackle this year.
And they
Yep.
really invested in the run game with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then just taking the load off of Lamar Jackson, and in that passing game, they got Zay Flowers. But when your back or number 2 receiver is Rashad Bateman, you're not really investing in the position too much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny to me that the teams that they compete with are going to be competing with in the AFC playoffs every single year. I've taken a completely different approach. In the
Well,
recent
they're
years.
going to be competing with them because they're making it there.
That's
so
true. Yeah, you got to make the playoffs first.
Yeah.
Well, even just within their division.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you've got these hard-nosed
Yep.
teams in that, and you play in such a shitty climate,
Yep.
half of the season.
Right.
Like, man, you gotta,
You have to be able to run the ball. If you're
you
playing
gotta
in
be
New
able to run it,
York,
and you gotta be able
you
to
gotta be able
protect
to
that
run
guy.
it.
You got the Steelers, and they always invest in their
Mhm.
defense, and they love getting to the quarterback.
Yep.
It's what they,
Yeah.
it's what they're known for.
The Steelers
And
are taking the approach, hell, we don't even need a quarterback to
yeah,
beat the Chiefs. So,
exactly.
so
Yeah, we're
they're
gonna make
going
the
completely
playoffs
opposite.
without
They're going on the depth for
straight
them.
defense.
Patrick Mahomes can't complete a pass if he's on his ass.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and
Yeah, so it's just that's the most interesting thing to me is just their philosophy, their approach that they're taking. To me, if you think Joe Burrow's the dude, if you think he's a top 5 quarterback, maybe you should
that they
probably,
paid him like he is. Yeah.
you should
Protect him.
probably maybe invest in the offensive line and see what he can do with.
if you let Higgins walk, you were probably able to sign
Mhm.
2 decent linemen there
Easily, yeah.
and invest in your defense probably
Right.
still. And I don't know. I mean, their free agency didn't really impress me much. I think they kind of got they. I don't know. I mean, I like T Higgins. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, but I think that was like subtraction by addition because you just can't. I mean, they just he
Right.
took up so much room. I think these are just guys they signed back or got. It was like Oren Burks, Cody Ford, Joseph Asai. They got Lucas Patrick at Garden, and I'm TJ Slayton at defensive tackle, running back. I mean, these are guys that none of these guys are gonna
Yeah,
take
they're
you
just
to the they're
rotational
not giving
pieces.
you a lot. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're rotational depth pieces,
Depth.
Yep.
and they need a big defensive splash
Mhm.
and a big offensive line splash.
Yeah. They have him at edge as the number one need going into the draft, and I agree with that, and I like your guys' take on the O line, but I think, in my opinion, I think they're going to go defense. So they got him at edge, and we were talking beforehand. I like James Pierce here at 17, or Mike Green if he falls down
Mhm.
that far, which Mike Green is gaining a lot of traction.
Yeah,
Last one I
CBS
seen-
is watching us clearly.
yeah,
Like they got
Mike-
him up to 12 now, so they're
Yeah.
clearly watching us.
So Mike Green's more in the Niners area where they
Yeah.
like to draft defensive ends, But I could even see him if one of those big cornerbacks fall down, one of those big DBs like Jade Barron or Will Johnson fall down to there, or even I could see him going up picking up that. But I think their first pick, and in my opinion, I think it needs to be defense. I think
Mhm.
it's going to be defense. You made a really good point about them trading back for more
Yeah.
picks because they only have 6 picks
Right.
and they have a lot of needs.
Mhm.
So again, this would be a good area to trade back and get picks. Even if it
Yeah.
means you're out of the first round and you get a buttload of picks,
Right.
then that might even be worth it for them.
I think they're another team that I like. I don't know, because if you don't see trade back from pick 18 in our last episode where we talked about them trading back, then it's kind of harder to trade back because that's another team that needs interior line. But if they trade back, you trade up one in front of them and then pick up that guard or center we were talking about, then I like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I have against that trade back is I think offensive guard is a really good spot for them to get, or even that center. I think they trade back, then they definitely aren't getting a top interior lineman.
Yeah, I don't even think with their first pick, I don't think they're going to go that way. I like what you're saying, but I don't think they're looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the edge pick just because we talked about before the show. Sam Hubbard retired. Trey Hendrickson's status is up in the air whether he's he's looking for a new contract, and it's to me it's warranted. He's led the league in the NFL the last 2 years in sacks, so I mean he wants to get paid.
Heck yeah.
Like his
Like the
production,
best, yeah.
his production's warranted.
So
and
here's a what if that might be kind of crazy. What if they use pick 18 to Troy Hendrickson, trade up to number 1 and pick up Abdul Carter?
ooh,
Oh, that would be huge.
That's a big what if, but I mean, I think
Right.
Trey Hendrickson in 18, I would take that
Right.
trade for the first overall pick.
right, kind of package it a little bit.
Yeah.
See if you can how far you can move up to, and see how far Abdul Carter drops. You never know.
Yeah,
how the,
yeah. If he's still there at 3 or
Right.
4, especially, then
Right.
yeah, just
Yeah.
I think that'd be the big splash they
Right.
need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be huge.
Yeah, definitely. I like. We kind of talked about it defensively, and I like as far as edge goes, you got that Jalen Walker. As far as the range, anyway, your big names like Abdul Carter and there's another one. Maybe Mike Green. Mike Green might not be on the board. Gage just talked about him being projected as far as number 12.
CBS
12.
has some 12. They have Jalen Walker,
Jalen Walker
at,
from Georgia, yeah.
9,
Mikael Williams from Georgia too. He's kind of a bigger body edge.
Yeah.
He's like 6'5", 260. So
Yeah.
I
They're
keep
right in
B
there for
drops.
James Pierce.
James Pierce, yeah. The thing that bothers me about James Pierce is his numbers. He didn't test very well.
Yeah.
No.
And so you look at some of his numbers because I remember I just listened to something on him because it kind of surprised me. He only had like a 31-inch vertical, and that's like in quarterback range. And then his 3-cone wasn't very fast either. So they started talking about like those are your big indicators about how explosive he is.
I hate that
He's
take.
and he's already tall and lanky, but he's not very explosive.
I hate everything you said there. Hate everything.
To me, he's not going to be. If he can't be explosive, he's not very athletic. It's just like, what are you going to get out of him?
But look at his production. I mean,
Was it very good though?
he was a big impact player. I don't know his stats, so I'm not going to say he was super productive,
Mm-hmm.
but I really like him. And the only reason I hate that, I take that, why can't I think of the word? I hate his test take so much because it's kind of personal, because I ran like a 5.3, and the next thing you know, I'm chasing down a guy that ran a 4.8. The combine don't mean
speed
anything to me.
Versus,
Yeah. He doesn't play like he doesn't test well.
Right.
He
That may be
plays
the
like
case,
an
yeah.
athletic guy.
Well, like because you talk about like that Shamar Stewart, where
Mhm.
he didn't have a lot of production, but all
Right.
his numbers and variables are up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why he's gaining traction. Maybe it's the opposite. I don't
Right.
know.
I mean, look at Xavier Worthy, fastest combine, had I think it was top 10 for wide receivers for Vert,
Mhm.
super athletic guy, and I mean, other than his 2 touchdown performance, he didn't do a whole lot this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it took him a while to get going for sure.
yeah, as much as I like looking at combine, I don't like to base my draft around that just because I don't think it means as much as people think.
Yeah. I get that. I just looked at those two things as far as vertical and um,
3-cone.
3-cone. I mean, that just to me that just screams like how explosive you are.
I
And
think
if you're going to play the edge in the NFL, being that as light as he is and as tall as he is, I think you need to be a little bit. Like if he weighed probably 20, 30 pounds more, it wouldn't bother me as much.
if he was 260,
Yeah,
270,
but he's kind of coming in at like 240, 250.
245, yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to be 6'5", 245, I thought he was going to be a little bit more explosive.
I see
Maybe
that,
that's
and
something he can work on too.
I
don't
mean,
know.
Yeah.
I could look it up. I don't know what his 10-yard split is, but if you want to look at explosiveness, especially for DN, that's what I would go
Well,
off of his 10-yard.
If they wait till the second round, just while you're looking that up, too. I mean, there's guys there too for edge. You got Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State,
Mhm.
and like I said, we're going to mention Ohio State quite a bit. They Landon Jackson. I don't know where he's out of. I didn't put, but I mean, Landon Jackson is another edge.
Yeah.
And then they need defensive back. I think they still need safety because what was it? Von Bell left? Was he a safety?
I think
yes.
a couple. Was he
Von
there
And,
last year? Yeah, he was, huh?
Yeah,
and
'cause
so I also put Malachi Starks if he's still there
Okay, yeah.
at 49, and he's I think out of Oklahoma, wasn't he?
Starks was out of Georgia.
Georgia.
Malachi
Okay.
Starks?
Yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
Georgia? Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and if he's still there at 49, that would be a pretty good pick for their shore up some of that defense
Mhm.
too.
oh yeah, no, I like Malachi Starks, and I did get pulled up. His 10-yard split was 1.56, and his 40 time was a 4.47. So he's got that speed.
Got the speed. Yeah.
He's got
Top
the speed.
speed.
He just,
Yeah.
I mean, he might not be able to get up to get the ball, but he's also 6'5" and lanky,
Right.
so he doesn't really need to jump super high. But I mean,
he's got the long limbs. I
Yeah.
like that. I mean, I probably like him a little bit more if he gained probably 10, 15 pounds in the NFL just for a bigger body.
and I think that will happen. I
Yeah.
bet they put him on a regimen. They're like, you need to be 260 by start.
Yeah.
I bet that will happen.
Yeah, I think James Pierce is going to go in the first round. It's just
Mhm.
going to be a matter of where.
Right.
Yeah, I like him from what I've seen on combine tape and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty good. But I mean, yeah, I guess these guys they do those drills for a reason. So I
Right.
agree with you, but I also agree and they do their homework on
Mhm.
these guys. So
It's just like I going back to what they need. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they drafted James Pierce. So they definitely need defensive help.
mhm.
So if their first 3 picks are defense, that's probably what they're going to need. I talked about a little bit earlier. They brought in Al Golden, and Al Golden has history with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was their linebacker coach before he went to be Notre Dame's defensive coordinator. So
I
it's
didn't
not
know
like they're
that.
bringing somebody in who doesn't know the organization.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming back to where he was before. He was Notre Dame's defensive coordinator. So
Right, okay.
I liked him as a defensive coordinator. He mixes a lot of stuff up. It might just be like another reference like we did Geno Smith and Sam Bradford. He's just a younger version of probably Lou Amarillo.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I think
Uh,
Lou Amarillo kind of got the shaft with how many injuries that defense have had.
yeah.
It's pretty much
Injuries,
the
and
same
they're not
defense they had when
invested.
they went to the Super Bowl, and it was kind of like people were
Yeah.
talking about Lou Amarillo getting head coaching jobs because how well their defense was playing. So
yeah. And then just another thing, like I said, we were talking about production. Sorry. We just talked about it, so I'm going to I looked it up. He had 38 total tackles, 23 solo, and 7.5 sacks, and a pass deflection, and forced fumble that he recovered.
Yeah.
So not super good production.
Was
but
that career college or is that
no, that
senior
was
year?
this year.
Junior or
Actually,
senior year?
yeah, his 2023, he had 27 total, 18 solo, but 9.5 sacks
Okay,
and
so
2
he
forced
does
fumbles.
produce.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got a few guys for them to draft still. I wrote down a few more guys that I want to throw out there for their third round pick, which is number 81. I guess this is still linebackers at second round that they could go towards, which we talked about them going after. I think you mentioned them going after that linebacker in the first round,
Oh, Jahad Campbell.
Jahad Campbell.
Jahad Campbell, yeah.
He's like a tweener. He's not. He kind of reminds me maybe a little bit of Micah Parsons, where he was off the ball at Penn State, but he would rush on third downs. So
Yeah,
he
he
can
was
do
a
it. He's a little bit more explosive, kind of like a Nolan Smith for the Eagles, who
Right.
can play off the ball. He's not a very big body, like 240 pounds or something like that.
Okay.
So that's what kind of reminded me of what they could go with first round is he can maybe be off the ball first couple downs, and if they need a rushing package, he can be an edge rusher for him.
Yeah, because linebacker's a big need. They need somebody to go there with Logan.
Mm-hmm.
You know what'd be good if
guys
they
in the
draft him? Get a couple DTs and run a 5 for him.
There you go. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
I got a couple linebackers for the second round. They got that Carson Schesinger. I don't know. He has that weird last name out of UCLA.
Yeah.
He's projected around the 49th pick. And then Kobe King. And I can't remember where he's out of.
Was it TCU? That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I was just looking at it, man. I don't remember.
And he's a really good back or a good linebacker, and they have him right there around that same picking point, like 49. So there'll be guys there, and then in the third round, I mean, if they haven't picked up an edge by then, I'll be surprised. But then you got like Tyler Barron from Miami,
Yeah.
and then a cornerback that a lot of people are starting to talk about is he comes from that small school, cornerback Zoff Frazier.
Yeah.
He's climbed up, and they got him as like around 81 to 90, 80 to 90, and
Kobe King is out of Penn State.
Penn State. Okay, yeah.
Okay. And then but that dude's out of Zoff Frazier's out of I think it's Texas San Antonio or
And that's an edge guy or linebacker?
he's a cornerback.
Corner.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he would help with their defense. And I only threw that corner in there. I don't know if that's one of their pressing needs, but I threw it in there because
Texas State. Or
Texas.
TXSA.
Texas San Antonio.
That's what
Texas
I
San
thought
Antonio.
it was.
You're
So,
right.
I mean,
Yep.
it's a small school, and I just see him climbing on board. So
I like him for his height. Looking at it, 6'3".
mhm.
That's a tall corner. 186 would definitely need a couple
Yeah.
more pounds at 6'3".
And I kind of thought maybe he could maybe transition because of his size to safety too, if that's where you want to with him defense back.
Mhm.
So I don't know. They need a lot of help on defense. We were talking about now we're getting into teams where you're like, we're getting out of the if this works, they need these guys.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
need it. I don't think that I think they're going to be great on offense. I think they're still going to do well, but I don't think that if they can't address this defense, it's going to be another bad
Yeah.
year. I think they're going to probably start off just as bad, or maybe even it just might be reversed. They might start off decent this time and then end poorly because their quarterback's down a lot, or they don't
Yeah.
have enough depth at defense because they can't afford it because
Right.
they got
Yep.
those wide receivers.
Yep.
Yeah. So here's a guy you probably like for him. Jack Kaiser
Jack Kaiser. Yep.
at 162 is where
Yeah.
he's projected. I mean,
I don't know why he's down so far as a projection.
yeah. If you could get him that low, I think you take him. If you could get him as a third or fourth round
Right.
pick
Yeah,
for
they got him
Bengals.
going into the 4th and 5th round now.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've seen a lot of guys that I was kind of thinking of too that would fit that system with Al Golden is that Xavier Watts, because he's kind of been projected as a third round pick too. So bringing in Xavier Watts as a safety for them maybe just brings some continuity for that defense, or as far as what he likes to do, what he likes to run, maybe he can kind of help things out on the back end. I don't know. They just need a lot of help. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Just some of the teams that they have to go up against in the AFC. I mean, you got the Baltimore Ravens, who the last 2 or 3 years they've been right there floating around the number one seed. You got the Kansas City Chiefs, who've been to the 3 straight Super Bowls. You've got Buffalo Bills, who seem like they've kind of
MVP.
figured stuff out to try to compete with Kansas City every year in the playoffs and even in their own division. Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens. It's just like, man, can they even get out of their division alive? It's just like, holy cow.
Yep.
Where they've taken a different approach to everybody in the AFC. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the comments you made on that completely about the culture there compared to the other one. They don't have the same style of football,
Right.
and they haven't for a while. Honestly, I don't remember the last like real power back they've had there since like Corey Dillon. I'm sure they've had guys who run hard. Joe Mixon wasn't a power back though. He ran hard, but he wasn't a big back.
I definitely thought he was 200 pounds, 225 pounds.
That's not that big. Corey Dillon was like 255, 260.
I think I really liked Joe Mixon. He just kind of came in the tail end of his career with the Bengals, anyway, or his time with the Bengals was with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Joe Burrow. So what do they like to do? They like to throw the ball. It almost reminded me of the Kansas City Chiefs situation where they're going to let Patrick Mahomes throw the ball 60 to 70% of the time. And Joe Mixon, I thought, was super productive with him. That's why I was kind of surprised they let him go. But
absolutely.
He just played in a pass-happy offense, and where Joe Burrow didn't like to get under center and hand the ball off or do play action, and he likes to be in shotgun quite a bit. So,
and I like Joe Mixon. I like him a lot. Yeah. But when you look at NFC North teams and running backs, I mean, it is known for having big backs, big guys that are, you know, Jerome Bettis type guys, you know.
Right now, they're only really big Jerome Bettis type of guys. Derrick Henry in that division, though.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going away from that. But I guess, I thought Joe Mixon was bigger because he ran like he was bigger.
He runs so hard.
6'1", 220.
Yeah.
That's what they got him at least right now on the Texans. He's 6'1", 220.
Yeah. I just, it's just, you know, to me, I think that in there where you got all that snow, it's just going to happen. And December is an important time for football. You got to win some games. And if you are just relying on your pass and all that weather, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
I think they just need to be able to pound the rock. And I think that's been the difference, in my opinion. I think that the Steelers, even the Browns at times, have been able to just do better at pounding that rock. And then, so I agree with you. They're not built the same as anybody else in the AFC.
Okay, so
that are successful, let alone their own division.
Right.
This isn't something we've talked about a lot because who cares about the undrafted free agents? What if they bring in Sam Scott and develop him for a couple of years and have him go in on 3rd and 1?
Do more of he'd be like a kind of a slower use check type of guy.
yeah. Bring him on 3rd and 1 and set him up the gut at Logan. Set him up the gut. Yeah.
They need to get a time possession type of offense with how bad their defense is. They need to stop scoring so quick with those explosive with T. Higgins
so slow back is perfect, man. Throwing the 4-8 Sam Scott.
I don't know. Cincinnati was like the team last year was like, oh man, if they make it into the playoffs, they can make a run, but you got to get in the playoffs to make a run.
I knew they weren't going to make it, so
it's just every game it seemed like right towards the middle of, especially right in the middle of the season, they were like losing 4th quarter leads and losing 1-possession games, and I thought there was like a stretch there of like 5 straight games where they seemed like they lost like by a field goal or an overtime or by a touchdown. It was just like their defense just kind of let them down, and like you said, once they kind of figured it out, it was a little too late. But I don't know.
They didn't even. I mean, it wasn't like they got way good. It was just they got better.
Right? They got good enough. For that overrated offense to do something with it.
All right, I think we kind of hit our first team though. Really, our first team that we're just kind of like, dude, I'm not that high on them next year, and they haven't had a very impressive offseason to me. I think that a lot of people are excited to have that wide receiver duo maybe until they realize what it's translating. I think they should have paid Hendricks and let
Higgins
do what he needs to do, man. And I mean, you can always draft another guy. You can draft another wide receiver, right? They waited too long to pay Chase as it is. Now they had to pay more. So I think they're not very. Their offseason's been poor. I think it's one of the worst in the league so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think all they've done so far is hurt themselves. I mean,
Yep.
I think you summarized it perfect. Can't add too much to it.
Yep. Okay. All right. Yeah. Again, thanks to Rock for our music, and yeah, thanks for watching.